All right, everyone, how are you? Let's do this. Are you doing okay? Welcome to this week's episode of our podcast. It's called Is Breakfast Included? Thanks for stopping by. On the show this week, my guest simply goes by the name of Morat. Morat is a singer for the band Soldiers of Destruction. He's a published author, he's a photographer, and he's the event coordinator at the Punk Rock Museum located in Las Vegas, Nevada. I reached out to these guys. They were very, very accommodating. They said, hey, we want you to talk to Morat. He sets up all the tours and so forth. And I went and met him. He was a great guy. We talked a little bit about his past, which is very interesting, and what he does here at the Punk Rock Museum. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy it. Let's check it out.
All right. Well, my name's Morat, and I'm the, I guess, tour coordinator or events coordinator or something like some title or other at the Punk Rock Museum in Las Vegas.
Right on, man. Well, thanks for taking time, Morat.
You're welcome.
You know, I just reached out to Melanie, I think it was last week, and she set this up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from England, grew up on the Isle of Wight until I was 16, 17 years old, and then ran away to London because that's where all the bands were.
And was it punk rock straight from the gate?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, when I was really young, I was into like Slade and T-Rex and all that sort of stuff. But the minute punk rock came along, that ruined my life, you know.
Who were some of the bands you got to see early on?
I was lucky enough to play with The Damned when I was 15. Like, we were just the local band, and they put us on with that. So that was 1979. And who else did I? The first band I ever saw was The Lurkers, but that's just because that's who came to town. I wasn't a huge fan, but it was like, you know, that's who's playing.
Yeah.
But I saw most of the good ones, I think, you know.
Did you see the Pistols?
Only on the reunion tour. I was a bit too young for the original Pistols. Right. They were still great, you know. It was their gig at Finsbury Park when they came back to London, and it was like 30,000 people or something. It was crazy.
Yeah. You asked so many people from around that time. Everybody saw the Pistols.
Yeah,
in reality, nobody really saw the Pistols.
Yeah, it's like how many people were at that famous Manchester gig, and we know there was 42 people there, but 42,000 claimed to have been there. You know.
Yeah. And moving to London, getting into punk rock. How old were you when you started your first band?
I was 14.
14.
Yeah, I played the first gig when I was 14 and had to be escorted in and out of the venue because I wasn't old enough to be there. And we only did one gig. It was terrible, local covers band, but you know. And then by 15, I was in another band, and we played maybe 15 shows or something. That was again mostly covers, and but we got to play with The Damned, and our drummer went on to be very famous because he was Razzle, who was in Hanoi Rocks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, unfortunately,
which is why I hate Motley Crue.
Hey.
Oh, one of the reasons I hate Motley Crue, I should say.
There's plenty of reasons to hate the Crue, right?
The music being one of them.
That's a reason plenty of people hate him.
But the fact that he didn't do any jail time when he should have done. And,
and he do like 15 days, right?
Well, not just that, but he didn't, like, if you kill people in a drunk driving accident, you lose your drinking privileges. You don't go out and start a tequila company and then get another 5 DUIs or whatever, you know. It's
and
like,
get an entire career out of it.
Yeah.
You know. When did you leave London and come to the U.S.?
That would be 2001. I got my visa 2 days after 9/11, and I was like, oh shit, do I still want to go there? But I'd already sort of planned, you know, and knowing nothing, I just moved to Hollywood because that's where English people move to, and then realized it wasn't what it was advertised as, should we say.
I was going to say, did you have a plan? Did you know people here?
No plan, suitcase, you know. I honestly had no idea what I was doing. Didn't realize that LA was so vast either because I had no car or nothing. Used to get the bus everywhere, and but it was, I just needed to get out of London, you know, various, some personal reasons and some just, I don't think you should just have one life, you know, have lots of different lives. And,
adventures.
Yeah.
Right?
And the rain was getting me down. It rained so much in England. It's
Still.
Oh God.
I think I was there a few years ago and it rained for like 30 days straight.
Oh, that's just a shower. It'll rain for weeks on end. And I'm into motorcycles, so no, that wasn't doing it for me.
Right on. Did you start a band upon landing in LA, or did you immediately start looking for a band?
No, that took a little while actually, and that was partly due to YouTube, of all things, because my original band, when I moved to London, the one I'm still in is Soldiers of Destruction. Yeah. And we'd broken up like 84 or something, but people started posting stuff on YouTube and writing to me going, well, when are you playing like Russia? And I'm like, we're not going to play anywhere, let alone Russia, you know? And there was suddenly all this interest in it. And I'm like, well, why not get a band back together?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the three guys I've got now are all new to the band because two of the original guys are dead and the drummer still lives in England, so obviously that wasn't going to work out.
Yeah.
I'm still in touch. We're still good friends. I'm in touch with him. But
so was that a shock to you that all of a sudden YouTube came around, people are discovering? I'm sorry, your band, Soldiers of Destruction, and now you're getting gigs offered to you that weren't offered to you to begin with.
Yeah, well, we actually got a lot of gigs back in the day. We like headlined the 100 Club and did a bunch of good gigs, which isn't bad. We didn't make any records.
Yeah,
like we didn't record anything. Partly because we didn't think we were good enough. And the other thing was we didn't know what production was. So a lot of those records sound really tinny and horrible.
Yeah.
And we just assumed that if you get signed, like we got offered record deals and all the bands on that label sounded really tinny and we just didn't want to sound like that.
Yeah.
So we turned it down. Part of it was being young and naive and, that's a sellout and, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we never recorded any records. People used to just bootleg the gigs with their little Walkmans, or not Walkmans, they weren't invented then, but you know what I mean?
The little,
like a ghetto blaster thing.
Yeah.
And they ended up on the internet somehow. So that's where we found the tracks to start working on them again as well, because, there was recordings of them.
And you guys have, what, 2 albums?
Just one. We're working on the second one at the moment. It only took us 40 years to make the first one.
40 years to make your first album. Yeah. How long to make your second?
It should be out next year.
Okay.
So that'll be 3 years. That's not too bad.
You're also a photographer.
Yeah.
How'd you get into that?
Completely by accident, because I was working for Kerrang! Magazine as a music journalist, or I hate that term. I was just a fan who writes about music, really.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to go on tour with Poison Idea from Portland, who are one of my favorite punk bands of all time. And none of the photographers would take the job. They're like, that band's crazy. They're like, there'll be drugs and violence and alcohol. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why I want to go. So none of them would take the job. And the magazine eventually just went, look, see if you can get some pictures. Here's here's a disposable camera.
Yeah.
And my pictures were terrible, but I got paid more for them than I did for the writing. And I'm like, maybe there's something in that. And I'd always loved photography. I just couldn't afford a camera.
Yeah. Because
I was living in squats and, didn't have any possessions. So I spent the money from that job, got a real camera and just learned from there, It was back in shooting film days, so there was a lot of disasters, but...
So you were self-taught?
Yeah.
But you also do pinup type photography. How did you get into that?
I got married to a model, so... My wife Masumi does sort of.
I was going to say
latex.
Your model is famous.
Yeah, she does.
Your wife is very famous.
Sort of latex photography and all that sort of stuff, and I didn't know how to do that either. And it's a totally different aspect to it because they're more obviously they don't want to look like Slayer. You get an image for a band and they want to look a certain way, whereas pinups don't want to look like that.
No, and
it's more particular, like hand placement and hair's got to be right and all that sort of stuff. So that was a learning curve as well. But.
So when you got together with Masumi, did she kind of teach you all that? Like, did you learn from her?
She taught me a lot about lighting for that sort of photography and about the posing side of it. I wouldn't have had a clue.
Yeah.
Because that's not, they don't stand there with their arms crossed like looking mean.
Yeah. Because you see these days on Instagram, everyone is a model. Everyone is a pinup model. Everyone is a photographer. But you always know, like, that's just somebody that says they're a photographer. Somebody's really just taking snapshots. Does that kind of irritate you sometimes?
Not really. I mean, it did, but it shouldn't, because everyone should have a crack at it. If you're getting paid for it, that's when you're a photographer, really.
Yeah.
I mean, but that doesn't work like that either. So we've got an exhibition upstairs by someone whose work was never shown.
Yeah.
It's really cool. He's still a photographer.
Yeah.
I mean, with the writing thing, if you say you're an author and you haven't got a book, then you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can still be a writer and perhaps not ever publish anything. So I try not to get too snobby about it.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's good work, it's good work.
I read a quote from you. Someone asked you when is the right age to cut off, and you said there is no right age. Like you said, if you're an athlete, maybe if you haven't done anything, there's a cutoff time because the body tells you.
Yeah.
But anything else, musician, writer, photographer, as long as you're doing it and you love it.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. I mean, obviously, if you want to be a UFC fighter and you're 50, then you're not going to get in there, and you've got, or a ballerina or something like that. But if it's not a physical sport or something like that, why shouldn't you start writing at 60 or photography or even making music? There isn't a cutoff point. But
don't get in it if you think you're going to make money.
No. My first book took me, oh God, how long did it? At least 3 years to write, and it took about 5 years to break even.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even paid that much for it. It was like layout and the cover and all that sort of stuff. And it took forever just to break even.
Was it self-published?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm really impatient, so I didn't want to send it off to publishers and wait 2 years for them to even look at it.
Yeah.
Plus, it was like, you have to give them a cut if you do it that way. Obviously, there's advantages. You get it in bookshops, but you got Amazon nowadays. Anyone can buy it,
Yeah, yeah.
But you don't have any expectations of it. You do it for yourself.
Yeah.
And now it's making money like years after the fact,
Yeah.
But that wasn't why I did it. I just did it because I wanted to do it.
Yeah. And so you singer in a band, author, photographer, and you're starting to see some of the rewards coming in from all of that.
Yeah.
Is it feel good to be able to say, hey, I don't work at Amazon. I don't work. This is what I stuck to my guns. I did and now maybe you're not rich, but maybe you are,
No, I'm definitely not rich.
But you're making a living.
But I mean, this is the first real job I've ever had, in those terms. And I'd always stuck to my guns because when I first left school, I worked in a factory for 1.5 years, and I hated it so much that it was giving me eczema and I was depressed as hell, and I just didn't want to do it. And I vowed I wasn't going to do another job that I hated. I'd rather live on the street, which I did. I lived on the street for a while because I just didn't want to do that shit.
Yeah.
And it's a real struggle if you want to do that sort of stuff, but you have to be true to yourself. And there was a certain freedom with living like that I wouldn't have had if I stayed in a factory.
Yeah.
You can't just up and follow a band around the country.
Why do you think certain people are afraid of that freedom?
Because it's scary.
I
mean, you have no financial stability, and there was times when I used to sleep under parked cars because they were warm. I had nowhere else to go. And that aspect of it, I couldn't do it now. I'm too old.
Yeah.
But that is quite frightening. But you've also got the aspect of such and such a band's playing in Scotland today. I'll go and see them.
Yeah.
As long as I got food and you meet cool people, you crash on their sofa. And then later on, you can return those favors as well. What I mean? You come across periods of your life where you're able to help someone out in the same way. You can put them up, or you can feed them, or,
And have you been able to do that?
Yeah, many times. And it's rewarding in itself. You don't expect anything from it. You're just repaying a favor, really.
Yeah.
Not to the same person necessarily, but
it's that
karma, if you will.
Karma, pay it forward.
I'm not sure I believe in karma, but that's kind of what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I also read that you and Lemmy, he was one of your closest friends.
Yeah.
What's the best advice he ever gave you?
Man, he gave me the talk one night when I was very young. I walked into a bar and he was really pissed off. And I wasn't sure why. And I'm like, oh, Lemmy's pissed. And I'm like, oh, he's pissed at me. And it was because I was pretty out of control at the time. I was doing too many drugs and getting into fights and riding my motorcycle on acid and all sorts of stuff that, you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
But I was young, stupid. And he sat me down for about 2 hours and told me to straighten myself up. And which, coming from, if Lemmy tells you to straighten yourself up, probably should,
Yeah.
And the best, it wasn't so much advice. He just said, you're better than that. You can do better.
Yeah.
And I think he was right. And the best thing about it is, not long after that, I started working for Kerrang, again by accident. And the next time I saw him, he had my first review in his wallet. He'd cut it out, and he had my first it was only like 200-word review, and he's like, I told you could do this,
Yeah.
And it's not so much advice, but it's,
Yeah.
it helps you with the rest of your life.
Yeah. Well, when I found out I was going to be talking to you, of course, I Googled you, I looked you up, I did some research. It must have been pretty soon after he had that talk with you that you started to believe in yourself, that you started to realize that you were better than that.
Yeah, well, I'd never had that before. I didn't really have a father figure in my life, and he became that for 35 years, you know. But if you've got, I kind of had the opposite. You can't do that. You're not good enough.
Yeah.
And you believe that if people tell you that enough, you know. And I was definitely in that mindset. And when he said, yes, you can, get off your ass, go do it, then, you know.
And like you said, I guess there's no one better to hear that from.
Yeah.
When he tells you, you're a little out of control, you know, you're better than that.
Yeah, well, especially the fighting thing. I wasn't even winning, as he pointed out. You know, I was going out. Well, I had some weird complex because of my stepfather, I think, and I used to go and pick on big dudes and just get my ass handed to me. And he was like, "Well, that was a waste of time, wasn't it?"
But was it to show like, you don't scare me? I'm, you know,
I don't know, some stupid macho shit that you go through when you're young. I was like 17, 18 years old, and I was an idiot. Most people are idiots when they're 18, you know.
Yeah. Well, just meeting you, man, you come off as one of the nicest people I've met in a while, and that's why it's like when they told me I was talking to you, I was like, ooh. I thought I'd come in here and you'd call me a poser.
Nah, I really hate the judgmental shit about punk rock, and things in, like, you know, scenes in general. Like, I can tell you what punk rock means to me, but it's not mine to keep. Yeah, it's just what it is to me.
Yeah,
someone
I guess else it means something to everyone, right?
Yeah, everyone has their own different interpretations of it, and that's one of the reasons it's evolved and blossoms. You know what I mean? It's not ours. We're just looking after it.
Yeah. So you were kind of happy to see it evolve from the from what it was to, I mean, punk rock's everywhere now.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it doesn't mean I like all of what's considered punk rock nowadays. Some of the stuff upstairs we got here, I'm like, that's not punk to me. And I certainly wouldn't listen to it, but it's not my place to judge it.
Yeah.
And it might be someone's gateway into better music. You've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So if you maybe listen to Fall Out Boy, which I wouldn't do personally, but it might turn you on to, they like this or they like that. I mean, that's how I got into the Stooges, because the Sex Pistols covered them. I'd never heard of the Stooges. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And, you know, you look at what bands people are covering as well, and that will lead you down different paths with music, you know?
Yeah. Well, it seems like every bit of music, every bit of rock music, every bit of metal, every bit of music has a little bit of influence from punk. I work for the band Duran Duran.
Yeah.
And they love punk music. That's where they came from. It evolved into what it became.
Yeah.
Which was New Romantic, into what it is now. They're still around.
Yeah.
But they constantly talk about their punk influences with, like, you know, they wear it as a badge. Like, you know, because it was everywhere. And I think, you know, I'm listening to your band the other day. No, I'm listening to your band, and I think, man, this, you know, like, I hear those influences, because I'm sure you were influenced by somebody, which somebody took that, you know, and it's just, it doesn't stop with just punk.
Yeah,
you hear it in metal, you hear it in pop even, you know.
Well, it's funny because some of the stuff on our only album, people are going, oh, well, that kind of sounds thrashy. And I'm like, yeah, but it was written before that. We just didn't record it at the time.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple of tracks that were written in like 82 that sound that way. And people, oh, you got it from this? And I'm like, no. Yeah. And they didn't get it from us because we never recorded it. Yeah. So it's just, it evolved naturally, or, you know.
It basically is like science. It's going to eventually happen, right?
But yeah, and you can go down different paths with it. Obviously, the first album, we got like 7 old tracks and 7 new ones. And the new album's going to be 1 old track that we've dug up because people wanted that to be recorded. And all the rest of it's new. And it's gone down some paths that I wasn't expecting, because our guitarist, for instance, is into all sorts of shit, you know. Yeah. He likes the Smiths and Discharge, and also, you know, he's got a wider palette than I have. But he brings that into the music, I think.
And where do you pull from?
Same old shit I always do, really. Discharge, Motorhead, GBH, and, you know, for this at least, I mean, I have got a very varied taste, but it doesn't all work with what we're doing. You can't try and fit it all in, otherwise it just doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it sounds forced.
Yeah, I mean, I love The Prodigy, but I don't see us doing anything that's along those lines, because it just wouldn't work with our music.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now, man. We're here at the Punk Rock Museum in Las Vegas. And like you said, this is your first real job.
Yeah.
What exactly do you do here?
I book all the tour guides. We have guest tour guides come in and, you know, do tours for people. And it's my job to wrangle, like herd them and find out when they're not on tour so they can come in here, or, you know, if they got any interest in being here, or, you know, when they're available, and if they're going to sell any tickets. We can't, you know, I don't book a lot of bands that I like because I know they wouldn't sell, you know. Here's the singer of Disorder, and he seems to have pissed himself, you know. But, you know, I have to
again.
Yeah. Oh, and he's thrown up on the floor. Yeah. But so, yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of bands that I'm fans of in here, but mostly it's just stuff that I think other people will appreciate, you know.
And what if somebody were to ask you, like, what is the Punk Rock Museum? How could you explain this place to them?
12,000 square feet. I know that. It's got a bit of everything. It starts off with the early, like the Stooges and MC5, New York Dolls, through the Sex Pistols and the Damned and the Clash. And then it's got like a lot of, I think it's too focused on the West Coast stuff, honestly, but that's where they got most of it from. You know, that's where the people who put the museum together are from. So obviously it's going to focus on that, but it's evolving all the time as well. We're getting new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of stuff missing, I think, but we're working on that as well, you know.
And whose idea was this whole concept?
I believe Fat Mike and Lisa Brownlee, who used to work on the Warped Tour, but I didn't get involved till... well, it's funny, I actually saw Mike on New Year's Eve, and I hadn't seen him for years, like 15 years. We've known each other a while. And he's like, dude, you got to come and work at the Punk Museum. And I'm like, doing what? And he's like, being a punk rocker. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And I'm like, but I don't know how I was out in retail before, and I'm like, I don't know how any of this shit works. None of it. And he was like, well, we can teach you that, but we can't teach someone else 40 years of punk rock.
Yeah.
And then I was there for maybe like 3 or 4 weeks, and they went, no, you're not doing that anymore. You're doing tour guides. So I'm like, I don't know how to do that either. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know?
And what sort of exhibitions do you have here? Like, do you have stuff that rolls in and then goes away, or stuff
some of it's temporary, some of it, I mean, a lot of it's on loan. The Joe Strummer stuff we've just got in. I think we've got that for like a couple of years, and then that will be moving out. And we've got other stuff. I mean, part of the reason for that, I mean, apart from the fact that it's from people's personal collections and they want it back, is that it'll keep the museum fresh. There'll always be something new in here. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I've been there, I've seen that, done it. You know, you come back and there's some different shit in here. Like we just got the Lemmy stuff up recently, and we've been adding to that. And, you know, like I said, the Joe Strummer stuff's all new to us. We just got Jerry Only's bass that wasn't here like a month ago, you know. Yeah.
What is it about punk music, man, after generation after generation after generation, that attracts young kids or attracts, you know, that adolescent mentality?
I don't know nowadays, because I'm too old to appreciate some of the newer stuff. I mean, I still like newer bands, but not that often, you know. But I think it's because we're all dysfunctional in a way, and it gives us a family. Like, if you're an outcast in some way, then you've got a family with punk rock.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter if you're a fuck up, because we know why. You know, it could be your childhood, or it could be all sorts of things, you know.
Yeah.
Or coming to terms with your own sexuality, or all manner of things that lead you to be an outcast, and you'll find a space with punk rock, you know.
So anything can make you punk rock. It doesn't have to be like the mohawk or the spikes, you know.
No, not at all. I mean, I've got the mohawk just because I've got a big round head and I look better with it, you know. But, you know, it's not. I don't think the uniform's necessary. I've met very punk rock people who don't consider themselves that, or don't look that. Or remember the KLF, that band KLF? Yeah. They were pretty punk rock. You know, they did a lot of stuff that would definitely be considered punk, even though they weren't necessarily a punk band.
Yeah.
Like, they burned £1 million. That's pretty punk rock.
That is pretty punk rock.
And somehow made more money from doing that than they'd burned. I don't know how that worked, but...
Well, I wish it would work with us.
Yeah, I burned $1 the other day, and I've just got less money.
$1 less. Do you enjoy talking about punk rock? Do you enjoy talking about your past? Do you enjoy talking about it when someone sits down with you and they go, hey, tell me, you know, about... you know, the 70s, tell me about the 80s scene. Do you enjoy that?
Yeah, I guess gigs and music, definitely. I mean, if it's personal stuff, then not necessarily, because it wasn't very pleasant, but it's also, it does help people to understand that they're not alone in that, you know. But yeah, music, I can babble on for hours about that shit, you know, especially if I'm turning someone onto a band. I enjoy that, you know. It's like, oh, you never heard them? Oh, you got to check out this album or this album, and, you know. Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah, I remember. I didn't growing up. I was more of a Black Sabbath, the doomy stuff, and someone turned me on to the Adolescents one day, and I'm like, where have I been?
Yeah.
Like, why did I? Where's this been all my life? But at the same time, I could enjoy both genres of music.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm a big metal fan, and I mean, like I said, when I worked for Kerrang for 30 years, I was covering all manner of Soundgarden, Machine Head.
Yeah.
Pretty much every metal band on the planet, and I still love a lot of that stuff. And I see a lot of crossover. There's a lot of some of those bands are punk rock, even if you sell it as metal. Napalm Death were a punk band, and punk wasn't selling as the word. So let's call it grindcore.
Yeah,
suddenly it's selling. You know what I mean? And Randy from Lamb of God, we've actually got him coming in as a tour guide in January, I think. But he's a huge punk fan, and comes from punk rock.
Yeah, he is. As a matter of fact, someone sent me a picture. I'll send it to you through your Instagram. It's Randy and George Michael, and it says "Wham of God."
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah, yeah.
Seen it? That's great. But well, man, you guys have a room here that I heard called. I think it's called. It's a bunch of old cases of bands, broad cases.
You mean the jam room?
Is that?
That's not old cases. That's people's instruments.
Oh, okay.
Literally, we got Joan Jett's guitar, Tim Armstrong's guitar, Fat Mike's bass, and it's all playable. Kids can just go up and play it.
Okay.
And it's actually really special because we've had kids go in there, like they'll learn a couple of chords and come out and go, I'm going to start a band. And it's, well, you need a third chord probably, but... And we had one little kid in there who was autistic and didn't communicate with anyone. Like literally wouldn't speak, and apparently picked up Tim Armstrong's pink guitar, and that was life-changing. Now she can hear a song once and just play it, and her parents went out and bought her a guitar, and she wanted a pink one because that's the one she learned on, and that's given her an ability to communicate with people. Stuff like that's really special, I think.
How does the place feel as an organization when they hear something like that?
Oh, Mike was in tears when he heard about it. Like, it is really special. And we've had people come through here and be in tears at their memories, because we've all lost a lot of people in this scene. As much as punk saved lives, it's taken quite a few, And, it is very special to look at some of that stuff. It's weird for me because I never thought punk was supposed to be nostalgia. But it's been around like 50 years now. A lot of the gatekeepers, I hate this museum, but they're all on Facebook groups sharing old posts of stuff. And I'm like, well, you're still looking at this stuff. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with having memories of gigs or life experiences and stuff like that, as long as you're not stuck in the past. Yeah, nostalgia can be a good thing. Yeah. I mean, it, like you said, they just put up they're putting up the Lemmy stuff where it's there. I mean, how many times a day do you go up there and look and just talk to your friend? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not stuck there, because you don't live there anymore. Yeah. But it's nothing wrong with remembering it and learning from it as well. If I look back at my 18-year-old self, he was an idiot. Hopefully, I'm not that anymore. You know what I mean? No, you. Like I said, I did some. By the way, I love your shirt. That was my band shirt. Yeah, that was the only clean one I found this morning. I did some research on you, and a lot of people that come from that type of past, I wouldn't call you an idiot, but the past that you come from, you usually, those are the most intelligent people you meet. Those are the most people who've taken their experiences and not only learn from them, but have passed them on, because it's hard to find somebody who really can embrace their past at the same time get away from it. Yeah, I mean, you have to try and pass it on a little bit, if only so you don't see people making the same mistakes you did. Yeah, I mean, there's. When you're very young, I mean, I thought I was never going to live to 21. Yeah. And then you get to 21, well, I'll be dead by 30. And then you get to 30, and you're like, oh, shit. I'm going to see 40. This whole live fast, die young thing's not working out for me. But if you can change a kid's mentality to go, well, you probably will, probably will live to 21 and 31 and 41 and maybe even 51, you know what I mean? And you've got to have some idea of where you want to take your life. Yeah. Otherwise, it will take you, Yeah, yeah. How do you feel when people look at you as a mentor? Oh, God, don't do that. They do. They do. How does that make you feel, man? I don't know. I hadn't ever thought of that it doesn't occur to me that that's what I am at all.
Well,
I just try and not be an arsehole, you know.
Right on, man. Right on. Anything other than the Randy Blythe coming up? What else you got coming up here at the Rock and Roll Museum?
All sorts of stuff.
Museum.
Yeah, it is rock and roll, really. Yeah. I mean, if you look
Punk
back
rock
at it,
and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep it varied, honestly, because apart from the fact there's a very small well to draw from, if you keep getting the same bands, you're not going to get people coming back to see them again and again.
Yeah.
And it'll get boring. So we've got William Duval from Alice in Chains coming in on Monday.
Yeah.
And obviously that caused, what have you got him for? They're grunge. And I'm like, just Google him. He used to be in Blast and Neon Christ and a bunch of punk bands. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. And again, people are like, what? And I'm like,
they don't come any more punk than Billy Gibbons.
Well, not just that, but during the hiatus of ZZ Top, he went to London and he saw the Sex Pistols and the Damned and back in the day.
Yeah.
And he loves punk rock, you know?
Yeah.
So why not get him as a tour guide? I'd be fascinated by that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get people that are just interesting and with a cool story to tell, you know?
Yeah. And so you just invite these artists, to come and just give a tour guide?
Yeah.
You know, how hard is it to get them to do that?
It's getting a little easier now because word's getting around that people have a really cool time here and enjoy it.
Yeah.
To start with, it was pretty difficult because they didn't understand the concept of it. And some people are just not comfortable in small crowds either. You know, they don't want to talk to a small group of people.
Yeah.
And some are really comfortable. Like we had the guy from Sum 41, Dave. He was fantastic. His tours were 3 hours because he just wanted to talk about every single band. Every band.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of his band, but he was such a nice dude.
Yeah.
And at the end of his stay as well, he's like, I don't want the money, put it back into the museum, get something nice for the staff, which is why we got a nice coffee maker and a few other things that was down to him. He just did it because he loved it.
That's amazing,
you know?
man. Yeah.
And,
I've met that guy. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah, he's really super nice and knows every band as well.
Yeah.
It's like some shit that nobody knows all the bands in here. Like you just don't. You can't.
Yeah.
We've had like Greg Hetson from Bad Religion was, Circle Jerks nowadays. He was getting upstairs and going, I don't know any of these bands. Like, I just don't know because they're all new. But you're not supposed to know them all. Maybe you'll get turned on to 1 or 2 new ones.
Yeah.
Or maybe you won't. You know, just talk about the ones you enjoy and what they did for you, you know, like how they affected your life.
And how's that with you? Have you been introduced to any new stuff being here?
A little. The only one that springs to mind really is a band called The Slime from Canada, who honestly are not very good. But the story with them was that I heard this story. It was fantastic. They formed in Newfoundland in 1979, and they were so isolated that they'd never heard punk rock. So they made their music from having read about it. And I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting way of going about this. You know what I mean? If you were told to write a country album, but you'd never heard country, what would it sound like? So
That's
I looked them up,
amazing.
and it's pretty bad punk rock, honestly. But the fact that they did it like that is fascinating to me. You know,
Pretty original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, they're probably the only band that I've looked into. I've looked into a few that we've had as tour guides, like Masked Intruder, because we had Blue Intruder here, and he was such a lovely dude, really nice guy. And stays in character when he's got the mask on, you know. He's like, there's their whole stick is they're all criminals and all this. So he's really, really funny. And then I looked him up because I was expecting him to sound like Discharge or Agnostic Front or something, and it's really poppy and not my thing at all.
Yeah.
You know, but he was a nice guy. I looked it up, not for me, but maybe it's for somebody else, you know.
Right on. Where can people find your personal works on social media or online?
Yeah, I've got Instagram and Twitter, I think. I don't really like any of that stuff because I would stick in the mud. But, you know, it's a necessary evil, you know.
Right on.
But my books are available on Amazon, and I hate self-promotion, honestly.
Okay, I'll do it for you.
If you want to buy our band T-shirt, come and see our band, you know.
Right.
Not that we play much outside Vegas, really. But so come to Vegas, come to the museum, come and see my band. There you go.
And again, when can we expect the Soldiers of Destruction album?
6 months, maybe.
6 months?
Yeah, we're kind of halfway through it. And we had a few hold-ups here and there because of our drummer broke his arm. So that slowed us down a little bit. He was in the pit for a band and broke his arm. So, yeah, that slowed us down a little bit. And some of it, we're taking our time with it because there's no point in rushing having a crappy product. We want every song to be really good. You know, all bands say that, but I guess it's true. We don't want to leave, you know, a filler track here and there, and it's got to mean something.
Yeah.
So I take a lot of time with the lyrics, even though it probably doesn't seem like that.
Cool.
But
so it's your second album since '85. It's pretty much a record there.
Well, we formed in '82, so and that's probably the longest it's ever taken a band to make an album.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised. Some of it kind of touches people in ways that we weren't expecting. You know, we got a couple of songs about suicide, and after one of our gigs, this huge biker dude came up to me and he was like, I was sitting with a Glock in my mouth last night, trying to pluck up the courage to pull the trigger. And that song means a lot to me. And that's like, wow. You know what I mean? You can't write that by accident.
Heavy, yeah.
I mean, I wrote it because I was in that place at the time. But the fact that someone shares that experience with you and doesn't do that because of a song you wrote, that's pretty fucking special. You know?
Yeah. It makes it all worth it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're not in it for the money. We don't make it. We don't make any.
Where can people find out information about the Punk Rock Museum?
On the website, punkrockmuseum.com. That's pretty easy to find.
And you're here most of the time.
I'm here every day during the week. Yeah, I'm off at weekends. Well, like I said, it's the first real job I have to come to work. What the hell's that about? But I actually enjoy it. I had a day off last week and just came in anyway because I wanted to hang out and be among these people. You know what I mean? It's like it's fun.
Yeah, just walking in the place, I got that vibe. It just, you got this real positive vibe coming in. And like I said, I'm going to take a tour when we're done here.
Yeah.
It's a really cool venue.
Yeah. Well, all the people who work here are into it in one way or another, and they mean it. Like some of the younger ones like different bands to me because they're younger than me, but everyone here lives punk rock in a way, you know what I mean? A lot of them, when they first started, they got Punk Rock Museum tattoos and stuff. We've been open a week, you know what I mean?
Do you have one?
No, not yet. I'm thinking about it, actually.
Yeah. You're waiting for the year anniversary, right?
Yeah, maybe. I'm waiting to find some more space. I'm running out of space here.
Well, Morat, it's been a pleasure meeting you, talking to you, man. Thanks for your time. Anything else you want to promote?
I hate promoting stuff.
Well, I'll promote it for you when we put this out.
Come to the museum, check it out, and have a good time.
All right. Good talking to you, man.
And you, thanks.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Super cool guy, right? You can find out more about Morat and his band on his Instagram at Morat666. You can find out about the Punk Rock Museum at the Punk Rock Museum. I want to thank Melanie K there, who handles the PR. At Melanie K PR, and that's K Kaye. I reached out. She responded almost immediately and was very accommodating with the whole thing. If you're in Las Vegas, check this place out. If you like punk rock, if you don't like punk rock, this place is amazing. They have a bar in there. They have a tattoo shop. They have a wedding chapel, and they have some of the coolest punk rock, I guess, memorabilia or just stuff. And it's on loan, and it's always changing. All right, guys, while you're online checking all that out, check out our merch store, isbreakfast.bigcartel.com. Check it out, see what you like, buy it, and, let us know how we're doing. All right, guys, I am done. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.